Hello and welcome back to Uncover Your Magic. Today, I get to introduce you to another beautiful soul from the UK, Sally Bateman, who was introduced to me by the other beautiful soul I love and adore from the UK, which I am sure you can guess who that is, Dominic Zenden. He thought she would be an amazing guest on my show because Sally has been his friend for years now and has had so much magic in her life to uncover and share with you, my listeners. I know you will love her and relate, but with a really, really cute European spin. She's adorable. But before we get started, just a few reminders to check out this month's free masterclass. It's always on my social media every week who I am spotlighting and what they are teaching, and it's free. I also have my 5-day limiting belief challenge sign up on my website and also in the Instagram bio. If you're interested in my courses, Raising Confidence for Teens, or the Magic Path for Parents or Adults, connect with me and I will give you all the information. Those courses have changed lives. The kids I've worked with are living a different life now and have changed the energy in their homes. And if you know of any teenagers that are struggling or need a little bit of a boost of encouragement and empowerment with tools, send them my way, as well as parents. The Magic Path has transformed these adults and parents' life, and it makes me so happy to watch the shift in consciousness in families and how they have overcome. We get rid of limiting beliefs and learn all these amazing tools to live life with eyes of love. And it's just really, it's my passion, and you can tell. Anyway, connect with me and with anything. Always love to hear from you in listening to these podcasts. When I get messages from my friends that listen to it and tell me what they loved about it or learned, it's such a blessing for me to hear that, because sometimes I'm talking and interviewing and don't know if anyone really gets any aha moments. But when I do get those messages, it means so much to me. So for all of you that do that and have subscribed and put reviews out there, it means so much to me. So let's talk about Sally Beaton. She is a holistic nutritionist, women's life coach, speaker, and the founder of Women's with Sparkle. Sally coaches women all over the world, helping to get their sparkle back so they can thrive in business and life. She has a particular interest in teaching women how to boost their hormones, health, and happiness so they can reach their full potential, pursue their passions and purpose. And she's the author of an amazing book that I just finished reading called Get Your Sparkle Back: How to Reignite Your Health, Happiness, Energy, and Confidence. I know you are going to love Sally, so let me bring her on. So without further ado, please welcome this beautiful soul that I get to introduce you to, Sally Beaton. Welcome, Sally.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And I love meeting people in different time zones, and you're getting ready for bed and I'm just starting my day. But, I said in the intro that Dominic Zenden introduced us, and he just immediately, when he had his flash of you, because he's known you for a while, was like, oh my gosh, Ashley, you have to have Sally on your show. You can talk so much magic with her.
Oh, yeah, no, he was, as soon as I finished speaking to him, he was like, I have to put you in touch with Ashley. You two just love the same stuff. You'll so get on. So yeah, thank you, Dom.
And he'll be listening.
Yeah.
But so I've read your book, and I've told everyone about it, Get Your Sparkle Back. And when like writing a book, when that's inside of you, I think there's a book in every single person.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's a book in me, and Dominic and I are like, we're starting to write it. So it's so cute. Like, isn't
That's
that fun?
exciting. Is that an exclusive?
It's about, so I don't mean to be talking about me, but
Let's do it.
He knows how hard I am having, knowing my daughter's 16 and they're getting older and they're going to leave. And he's like, Ashley, everything's perfect. You're going to find something more amazing when they leave, and life is going to shift and it's going to be beautiful. And there's going to be new things for you to do. So he's really helping me that way. So one day he's like, let's write a book about how to break up with your children.
Yes,
And it
great
might be healing
idea.
for me, when I do it
Great
before they
idea.
leave. Um,
Yes.
so he's writing a part of the chapter, then I write part of the chapter, and he's just, so we keep going. Of course, he has way more, he's getting up and he's like writing it up, and I thought, okay, Dom, slow down. I'm still driving my kids all day long. But anyway, so yes, so writing a book is amazing. But when I look at your passion for people, it comes from what you went through. So we all have a story. We all have a childhood. We all have, I always say, because you only get one.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to learn from that? What are we learning from that to teach to, there's always, I always look at from the higher perspective, like looking at your life when you're, before, well, up to 20, think of all the things you have in, all the beliefs that you have put into your mind, all the things that you are going to take your life. You're going to use those beliefs to take you on this, the yellow brick road, which I call.
Yeah.
So go back to that, because I see when I read your book, I get where your passions are because of what you struggled with and what you learned. And when you write this book of all the tools, like, I'm going through menopause. I already went through menopause, but I'm reading the hormones and all that stuff that you did, but you did all the research because you were going through it. So take me to where you want to go. Like, where you kind of up to where you discovered your magic and you realized, this is my passion and I want to teach others this.
Yeah, well, like you said, it always, normally our kind of gifts, our calling, our purpose always comes out of something either difficult we've been through or something that took us a kind of while to get through. And we think, God, that took me 10 or 20 years. And I don't want other people in this situation for it to take them 10 or 20 years. So how can I get this information to them? So my story is that I kind of lived my 20s kind of a bit of a wild child, in that I was in the music industry and, I was trying to find fame and fortune and prove myself to the world. And I was a choreographer for music videos, and I was doing backing dancing and backing singing. And it's so funny because, I was trying to impress everyone with all these things I was doing, all these famous people I was working with. And I look back at her now and I'm like, oh, I know why you were doing that. You were doing all that to prove yourself to your ex-boyfriend or your parents or the girls at school who bullied you, and so it's so funny when I think of that time, because some people who know me would think, wow, that was such a great, glamorous, successful time. And yet actually I paid a huge price for it, because it was a time where I wasn't myself. Like I said, I was trying to prove myself to the world. And when we don't like who we are, I didn't like who I was then. I always didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel slim enough. I didn't feel pretty enough. I didn't feel successful enough. So I just tried to work my way out of those feelings. I worked really hard. I networked really hard. I partied really hard. And my body was producing all these different symptoms, which I just found completely annoying. I had adult acne. I'd never had skin problems in my life. I had adult acne. I was getting IBS, stomach troubles. I was having period issues, all this stuff. And I just thought, oh, just a failure of my body. So I'd just go to the doctor, get a pill, right, try and get that symptom away with a different pill. And that was, all those different stuff was going on and off for like 10 years. And in my early 30s, I was kind of changing my career. I was going into PR and marketing. And I found a lump in my breast. And I was diagnosed with a fast-growing breast tumor. And I had to have 2 operations to remove it. And after that, I was having to go for a scan every 3 months to see if anything had spread, if I needed radiotherapy, things like that. And it was a really terrifying time of my life, because I didn't know how I could hustle my way out of this situation. Whereas before, I was so used to taking control, and normally just working harder was the solution for any problem I had. Whereas I didn't have a solution for this problem, that I felt like my body had betrayed me. I felt physically low, mentally low. I felt the opposite of all those things I'd kind of felt a few years younger, which was kind of glamorous and fun and successful. And it hit me hard for a long time. And it was in that time I thought, I put my problem solving hat on and I thought, wait a minute, what would I say to one of my friends who was just living 3 months at a time in between each scan to say she was clear? You know, there was nothing else growing in her body. You could go and live for another 3 months. And I'd say to her, well, let's try and find out like what happened, you know, so you don't have all this fear. And so I looked into the sort of breast tumor I had, what causes it, what can make them come back. And I suddenly found out, wow, this breast tumor was caused by the same thing that caused my acne, that caused my IBS, that caused my period problems. And this is bad diet, bad lifestyle, acute stress, and not listening to my body when it was trying to get my attention. And so what happened is my body escalated those problems to the point where I could no longer ignore them and just take a pill to sort them out. And
Mhm.
so it's from that point I kind of changed my whole life. I realized, oh my goodness, we are not being told the full story of our health as women. We are not being taught the power in our everyday thoughts, beliefs, choices, actions. We're just being told, fingers crossed you stay well. And if you don't stay well, well, then hopefully a doctor can help you. And
Right.
I was like, my mind was blown that actually every day, my decision was whether everything I ate, everything I thought, everything I did, the people I was around, those things were the things that determined if I was well or not, if I was going to create a disease or not in my body.
Oh, I love that.
The majority of the time, you know, there's always situations that's not true, but the majority of the time, we have the power of our health. And so to learn after feeling so disempowered that I had the power over my health and that I didn't have to wait for a scan or for a doctor to tell me I was okay. Every day I could make myself okay.
Yes. Oh, see, I love that. Everything about, your mind, I love, all the Joe Dispenza comes to my
Yeah,
mind, his,
yeah,
Louise Hay. I grew up, reading that, the power of
yeah.
our mind and our dis-ease in our body. Um, when you get to what you did, and I look at it like watching you talk, because you're just so beautiful and you're like this angel. But when I look at you and like, okay, in your, in your little soul person up here and that's living in your higher self was saying, okay, Sally, you need to have this happen. You need to have this crazy life of trying to please everyone,
Yeah,
not resting, always trying to, prove yourself,
yeah,
and then get to a place where you're exhausted and something happens,
yeah,
right? You get this tumor.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I get to figure out how to get rid of it. Well, the whole um when you learn your mind is the most powerful thing,
Mm,
and you can learn those tools and try to figure out, like, when you talk about that in your book, like, I think women, when you're talking about rest, that, let me tell you, let's start with that.
yeah,
We don't know how to rest. It's bad if we rest.
yeah.
I look back at, I mean, I can't lay there. I look at my husband, and he's sitting on the couch watching what I'm like, I don't have time for that, and,
Yeah,
or,
or
or
even
I'll
if
feel
you did,
bad.
you'd feel guilty. That's the thing.
Yes.
My husband did the same yesterday. He was watching a program and I walked through kind of doing the laundry and like, you do it
Yes.
very loudly so they know. And I
That's
thought,
totally me. I just saw that same thing. That's
I
funny.
thought, he's still relaxed. Oh my goodness. But instead of getting angry, I thought, wow, what a lesson. What a lesson. Because if I do have those moments and he's coming through, it almost goes back to being a child and thinking, oh my goodness, I have to just say, oh, I'm just having a cup of tea. Then but like to learn that actually rest is there for us, but we have to have the confidence and we have to say, this is a vital nutrient, not an add on. Yeah.
Right.
So
But okay, so when I got onto your website and I clicked where you put your email in and you get the 7 things to get your sparkle back.
yeah.
So when people come to you that are led to you,
Mm,
and they are struggling with,
yeah.
their hormones or periods or whatever,
Mm,
their sparkle, they don't have their sparkle.
yeah.
So lead us into, like, where sparkle, I can just see that's in your personality. That's where that comes from, right?
Yeah. It's like to me, it's like a woman or anyone, it's their life force, right? So if you say, oh, think of a woman you know who's got that sparkle, right? So you think of it, and sometimes it's a physical thing, but often it's this life force. You know, like some of the women I think of are kind of in their 80s, and they've got this sparkle and they've got this life force and they've got this passion. And it doesn't have to be like an external thing, you know, it doesn't have to be like they're very beautiful or they're very successful in the world. It can just be this like magnetism of like, they know who they are and they're radiating that into the world. And
Right.
so the women who come to me, they kind of feel like they've lost who they are and they're not radiating anything. And so that can be they're unwell physically or mentally, or they just feel like, oh, you know, I don't know what to do with my life. So that kind of word sparkle seemed to capture it all. And also it's quite an interesting word, because I kind of say it's how I meet my tribe, right? There's women who are like, oh, like they hate the word sparkle, they don't like sparkly things. And so I'm like, I'm not the person for you, right? So
Right.
it's even that, it kind of, some words like that, don't they attract or they repel people. But for me, I want women to know that whatever they've been through in life, whether it's death or disease or a divorce or the hardest of times, or they just are exhausted as a mum, I promise them that that sparkle is still in them, because they were born with it and they will die with it, but it gets covered up by the rubbish of life, right? So we
Yes.
have to find ways to dust it off, to exercise those muscles, and to help them remember who they authentically are, not just who they are operating in all the roles that suit everyone else, be it wife, mum, employee, business owner.
Right. I just had a flash in my mind because I always teach the girls, or I tell them who I'm interviewing. And today the book was in the car because I haven't time to read it while I'm in the car and when I parked. And I was explaining them this. I asked, what do you think sparkle is? Because I'm so in tune to teaching them now, because I don't want them to get to their 20s and then 30s and then go, oh my gosh, you know, what have I done? And who have I tried to please? And where am I? Who am I on the ranking of this life? You know, when I should be
Yeah.
first, you know,
Yeah.
like, but to explain to my daughters today about this, I said the 7 things that that bring your sparkle back. And they're like, Mom, we do that all the time. Isn't that funny? Like we think find some good music. We, you know, if we are down or something, like put on something cute, you know, that'll change your energy, like getting in
Yeah.
alignment, like getting in that place of your vibration and finding something to make yourself happy.
Yes, definitely. Just changing the energy of that thought, that day, that moment. That's amazing. Your
And your
girls are like,
thoughts, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
thoughts are so important. And you know, when I listen to you talk and, um, you know, when there's a loop that goes in your mind for women, especially, like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll be the first to say like, oh, menopause, no one tells you about menopause. I just
Mhm.
went, what? I used to like, what? Like, what's going on with me?
Yeah.
I mean, but the loop of that, I have
Yes.
to really take control and say, okay, Ashley, what are the thoughts you're thinking?
Yes.
Switch it. What
Yes.
I teach my clients, you know, when we're
Mhm.
not talking about menopause, but go to your, like what you think is important and how you get yours, like just the ABCs of like little Sally's sparkle. You know, what are your, like, what would you say to somebody like, you know, if I just had to meet you one time because I can tell you're down, this is what I would tell you to do.
Yeah, so I would say, like, because what people try and do is, like you said, if I meet someone and they're down and they're exhausted and they think, oh, I know what you're going to tell me to do. You're going to tell me I need to change my whole diet. You're going to tell me I need to change my job and leave my relationship and things like that. You know, like the fear in people's eyes of what they think it takes to feel better when they're kind of hanging off a cliff edge, you know? And so I think it's quite cruel, because a lot of women go to these coaches or trainers or whatever, and they're kind of given a boot camp. And for some women that works, but for the women I work with, they're so tired. You know, the last thing that would kind of like just probably make them give up on their sparkle for good is for me to say, well, your diet is horrendous. So I'm going to need you to start doing this 20 ingredient smoothie, these 25 supplements. I need you to start training. And so the thing that most women need is the thing that they give out. So they need to be nurtured. So most women are natural nurturers, and they're helping their children, their parents, their partner, their pets, and they have a kind of nurture deficit. So it's really important that you talk to yourself like the most gorgeous, perfect mother, right? That no one gets to be the whole time, but how you would want to be in your kind of, Hallmark movie, that you talk to yourself like that. So if on that day you say, you know what, I'm so exhausted, but I hate my body, and I'm just, I'm so lazy and I'm so fat and I'm all these things, you kind of visually grab yourself by the shoulders and say, you're doing really well, actually. Look at all you've achieved this week. Look at all the people you've kept alive. Look at the house that you managed to even tidy a bit of, like just that reassurance, that nurturing, and the let's do the smallest of things, right? So let's not start with the big stuff. We can get there. We want you to have the dreams, the hopes, the vision, but let's start with the foundations. Let's say, have you even had a glass of water today? Or have you made food and drinks for everyone else, and actually your body is dehydrated and you're getting headaches and you're feeling cranky? So let's just get you a glass of water. Let's just make you something lovely to eat that isn't the scraps, that isn't eating off everyone else's plate, that isn't the worst convenience food. Let's nourish you. And then let's ask you what you need. And for most women, they say, I just need a break. I just need a night to myself or an afternoon to myself. And we say, okay, how are we going to make that happen? And even that can feel like someone saying, I want to go to the moon, like getting a woman an hour on her own or an hour's nap or things like that. But we find a way, because the other side of that is we say, you will need all those things if you become ill, right? So we want to stage that intervention before you become ill, because that low mood, that low energy, that dis-ease of your body, that tends to be the warning sign 1, 2, 10, 20 years in advance to say, hey, your body's waving a white flag and saying, I just need you to look after me a little bit as well, right? I know you have all this stuff going on. And so it's that kindness, that caring, that simplicity, that nurturing, that I think is the first thing that brings a woman's sparkle back. Like I said, before we've even got onto the fun stuff of her diet and her dreams and her hopes and her goals and all this thing, I can leave a woman for a week and say, right, I just want you to get 5 minutes rest here, or a 30-minute nap this weekend. That's or an hour on your own, and you're going to do it as if your life depends on it, because at one point, maybe your life will. So we're going to practice now so you don't even ever need to get there. And you see the woman go, you know what? I had a glass of water before midday and I went for a walk on my own. And I said to my husband, sorry, actually, you're going to do dinner, or you're going to hold the kids. And that those things that felt like they would never happen, that is the kind of gateway to a woman remembering that she has power and energy and sparkle.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So when you think of like these people that come, and are they at there's a health problem? I mean,
Yeah,
is that
so I say that I work with women who are struggling with their hormones, their health, or their happiness.
okay?
So yeah, it might be women struggling with their periods or the menopause or the perimenopause, or they might have a serious health issue or a mild health issue like a skin problem, or it might be that they feel like they've lost their confidence as a mom. Like I work with a lot of women who've had careers and had all this stuff they wanted to do, and then became a mum and lost a lot of their confidence or their energy. And so we work with building them back up and letting them feel like the best version of themselves, not a hologram. So yeah,
Right.
I work with all different types.
When you talk about the cycles, and the women's is the moon, and the male is the sun, the
Yeah.
day, like waking up.
Yeah.
If even if people if that was like something understood, like when you're growing up, like understanding, it would make the men understand women more. Like you said in the one with Dominic, men are from Venus, women are from Mars, or
Yeah.
but we wouldn't go there, and
Yeah.
that's why when I was reading that, thinking, gosh, everyone needs to understand, when we're going through this phase of the moon, we need to sleep more, or we need to,
Definitely.
so will you
Yeah.
explain that?
Sure. So women and men have different hormonal cycles. And like I said, the men's hormonal cycle is like the sun. A man's hormonal cycle is 24 hours. So every day his hormones rise and fall predictably at the same time. They're kind of higher in the morning, and then over the day they gradually kind of peter out. So that's why there's this idea that, oh, you know, men are much more stable than women. They're kind of just easier to please and things like that. Well, they have a hormonal cycle that just kind of rises and falls every day. So generally, their mood, their energy, their appetite will be doing the same things day in, day out. And that's just hormones. That's not because they're easygoing or anything like that. Women's hormonal cycle takes 28 days. It's like the moon. The moon cycle is 29 and a half days, but it's about the same as a woman's cycle. And so within that time, if you think of the moon, sometimes that moon shines brightly and is illuminating and everyone can see it and it's lighting up the world. And sometimes the moon is hidden and there's no light there, there's no energy being given off. And sometimes the moon is a crescent and a half. And the same happens with a woman's hormones over 28 days. So we go through these, there's the same predictability that men go through. It's just ours is over a longer time period. So at certain times of the month, a woman's energy will be very low, her mood will be lower, her appetite will be higher during her period and just before. But we've been taught that that's something wrong, when actually that is the time that a woman is repairing mentally and physically. As she's having a period, that's when her body is helping get rid of stuff, but also her brain is optimized to analyze stuff. So that need for peace and quiet at that time of her month is so she can analyze and say, hey, what's not going very well in my life or my family or my business? And her brain chemistry is optimized to do that. After her period and her hormones rise, she goes into, it's kind of like the seasons of the earth. So her period would be like winter. And after her period, she comes into spring. So her hormone levels rise, her energy starts to rise, her brain chemistry changes. So she has this kind of, it's called the follicular phase. So new follicles are growing in her body. And what that makes a woman want to do is kind of brainstorm, start new projects, just do things a bit differently. And it's, I always say it's the time in a woman's month where if every night she sat on the sofa with her husband and they're watching Netflix and they normally eat the same thing, it will really annoy her. And she'll be like, oh my God, my life's so boring. I need to do something new. And yet it predictably happens every month. But because women aren't taught this kind of pattern,
Right.
them and their partners can think it comes out of nowhere. So after spring, they move to summer, which is the ovulatory phase. It's when all those hormones have kind of peaked. She's ovulating, a woman's physical features change. It's kind of when she's seen as the most magnetic, outgoing. Her brain wants to socialize, communicate really well. That's what's optimized at that point of her cycle. And then we go into autumn, which is the phase that leads into her winter phase, her luteal phase. And that energy starts to drop gradually, or for some women quite dramatically. The mood starts to lower. And what we've been taught is that low mood is a bad thing. But what the bar we've been set is that women are always meant to be in summer. They're always meant to be in their ovulatory phase. They're always meant to be upbeat, outgoing, want to socialize, perky, you know. And actually that's not us. Just like the moon, yes, we have our ovulatory phase where this bright ball of energy, but just as the moon changes the amount of light it emits, that's like women. We were never meant to be this kind of switched on ball of light for everyone else the whole time. Some of our cycle, and that's the same when we go through the perimenopause and menopause, of course we still have that light for other people, but it's so vital that we have that time for ourselves. And when we don't, that's what causes the tears, the PMS, the crankiness, because our hormones are saying, hey, wait a minute, you're still trying to give out all this light, but I'm asking you to close down, to have some more rest, to have some time on your own, to eat a bit more. So like I said, like I just think our hormonal phases are so magical. And if we understood them, it would help so many relationships. It would help so many mental and physical health issues that women go to doctors for. And they say, you know, if a woman goes to the doctor with anxiety or depression and the doctor doesn't say, does it only come in a certain time of your cycle because our mood lowers, then that's kind of doing women a real disservice. But it's a real, like I said, it's a real powerful tool and it's vital that we learn it, because that's our key to staying in health. Our body, like the seasons keep us perfectly balanced. The moon is perfectly balanced. our hormones are perfectly balanced, but we live in a world that asks us to follow the male hormonal cycle, to do the
Right.
same day in, day out. And that's what causes this friction in our body and relationships, our
And the
health.
dis-ease and the
Yes,
stress.
exactly.
You-
Exactly.
So when you go in, we don't need to spend too much time because it's about me, but so now that I'm in menopause, I don't have that, right?
No, so you still have the moon, okay? So your inner state as a woman is still cyclical, right? So you will love the seasons, you will probably love nature. The moon is your guide as your reminder to say, hey, sometimes you'll still be giving out that light, that energy, but look to the moon. And the moon, instead of your bleeding cycle, is meant to be a woman who's gone through menopause's reminder. And the really interesting thing that happens in the menopause, because, again, like our menstrual cycle, the menopause has been given a really bad rap. And a lot of the issues we see in the menopause are linked with the lack of honoring of the menstrual cycle and the kind of wrong story of the menopause. So when a woman goes through the menopause, actually her ovaries are still making about 40 to 50% of the estrogen that she made. The rest is being taken up. So the rest of the hormones that your body needs, that your body knows that, it's your body's not going, oh, I'm just giving up now. That's it. Just do what you want. Your body switches, right? So I call it, we go through the sparkly shift of the perimenopause into what I call the freedom years full of sparkle. So within that shift, your body changes from your ovaries working full time to actually your adrenal glands and other tissue in your body making the sex hormones that you need. So yes, they decrease, but what your body is saying is, you know what, those nurturing hormones, we're going to decrease them slightly in your body, because what we're asking you to do now in these years, after all those decades of nurturing and giving out, even if you still have children, even if they're young when you go through the menopause, your body is saying, I've reduced those nurturing hormones because I need you to look inwards now. I need you to nurture yourself instead of nurturing externally, which what your hormones in the last phase of your women's hormonal journey have asked you to do. Your hormones have literally demanded everyone else gets put first. And you'll have the bumpiest perimenopause and menopause if you don't say, okay, it's time for me now, even in the smallest way. So it's not, I always say, it's not your body betraying you. So many women feel like they go through the menopause, their body is betraying them. And I say, actually, it's the opposite. Your body is saying, be true to you now. This is time, this second half of your life is about you birthing all the things that aren't children. So the first half of your life, women are birthing children, careers, things like that. The second half of your life is to say, what do you want to birth for you? You were put on this earth for a reason. And that's probably been kind of taken off focus while you've brought up children and all these amazing things. And it's literally nature saying, okay, we're winding down that and the spotlight is back on you. You've still got these sex hormones in your body. And so we want you to birth stuff into the world. That's what the menopause is for.
Ah, I love that. I've never heard that before. I have a whole different feeling now. It's like I'm
Okay.
empowered.
Yes, I'll send you my masterclass. I did a masterclass on it last week about the story that we've not been told about the menopause. So I run something called Sparkle School, and every month I do a masterclass of the things that women should know that they haven't been told. And the story of the perimenopause and the menopause, about it being a disease and a deficiency, as opposed to your body being on your side, your ally, rooting for you to come back and do all those things in the world that you were ordained to do, but haven't whilst you were nurturing all the other things. That's what those years are for.
Ah, thank you for sharing that.
Awesome.
I'm so glad I asked you because I have never looked at it that way, and I will now. Thank you.
Good.
So, my next thing was trying to think of watching you in your life, because you're 43,
Yes.
No children, married.
No. Yes.
Give me your daily, like what you wake up in the morning. Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a spiritual practice?
So I'm very connected to my cycle. So because I had so many years of being disconnected from it, like I said, I lived like a man. I didn't even like kind of you know, like I loved feminine stuff, clothes and stuff like that, but women who were just kind of weepy and what I saw as weak, I'd taken on this male story. So when I found about a woman's cycle and how health giving it can be, I really kind of, as much as possible, live my life like that. So I know that certain times of my cycle, I need a bit more sleep. So on that morning, I'm not going to put in an early morning meeting or a client or book a gym class. Whereas the other, I plan my work and my life monthly instead of daily or weekly, as
Yeah.
far as I can. Obviously, something always comes in, but in terms of day-to-day stuff, I always try and do the basics of in terms of as soon as I wake up, looking at the sky. I just get that moment outside. If it can be 5 minutes, amazing. That natural daylight is the messenger to my body. Daytime, we've got to wake up now. And that is the start of kind of releasing those hormones of energy, and actually starting the cascade all the way to when you start feeling sleepy later on. So for women who have trouble sleeping, I always say you need to get out in natural daylight before midday for your body to make those hormones of energy during the day and sleepiness at night. So I
Yeah.
always try and do that. I
Okay.
always rehydrate after my body's been doing all these wonderful processes overnight, healing and working hard. I always try and thank it and have a nice big glass of water with some lemon juice. And then, yeah, different mornings, different things. So a nourishing breakfast, because I always think like that small amount of time in the morning can be so busy, but I know my body's going to do a lot for me during the day. So if I can just give it those foundational things, water, daylight, some food, that's me giving gratitude to my body for it to then carry me through whatever the day is going to throw at me, be it nice stuff or stressful stuff. So I try and get just those simple foundations in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then do you look at, like the way you are with your husband? Is he on the same page with you? How does that work? How does your
Yeah. Yeah.
energy
So
connect?
funnily enough, like my husband, he's from like, well, other than his mum, like he has another brother, and it was a kind of male dominated household. So when we met, I obviously didn't know all this stuff about my cycle. We met literally as I kind of had been when I was ill and was just about to have my first operation. So I always say that was quite a special time that we met, because it was one of the most vulnerable times of my life. And I'd always been someone who wasn't comfortable with being vulnerable. I never wanted to let a partner see I was vulnerable. And so it was like, God sent me this man who it's like, we're going to, because I used to think, oh, I'll go on a date and I'll get to show them all this great stuff about me. And I met this guy who I really liked. And I felt like I couldn't show him any great stuff. He was seeing all the things I felt I wasn't. I was ill and I was sad and I was needy. But actually, I know that was such a good foundation for our relationship, because he got to see, because that side of me was always there. I'd just hidden it. So
Right.
it was like I wasn't able to hide it. And from the start, if he could deal with that and love me with that, then he got all the good stuff too, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
so but now he's gone on this journey with me, and I've taught him about my cycle, and I've taught him when I want to like even sleep in a different bedroom. It's not personal, it's just I'm wanting alone time, or my energy's low, so that night you want to do this, just do it with your friends, that's fine. Or today I want to go on a 3-hour hike because my hormones are high. So instead of him or me feeling like I'm kind of like randomly I've got energy and other times I haven't, he now knows this rhythm that my body goes through each month, which is such a gift.
Oh, I love that. It's just so fun when you get to the age or find a relationship where, you're on the same, you're not on the same journey, but you understand each other and you
Yeah.
appreciate and are, grateful for the ups and the downs. And I look at you and you're so feminine. And, there's a feminine and masculine, and it looks, like I led my life, and why I relate to you in that way is like I was so masculine and have,
Mm,
and I'm like, gosh, when can I find that feminine part of me? Like I
yeah.
just always had to, I didn't get married till like 36 years old. So I always had I had to run my life, and
Yeah.
I got onto that system where, I would attract men that were the feminine because I was the
Yes.
masculine.
Same here. Same here. That's what that energy does, right? Is that if you're operating in the masculine energy, it's magnetic. You're going to attract the feminine. If you're saying, I'm a provider of everyone, you'll attract the neediness.
Yeah. Oh, did I ever?
Yeah, me too. Don't worry.
But so why I asked you that was because I see this, you know, I understand the masculine part of you up until 30 and finding this because that didn't work. There was no balance.
Mm,
And now you found the balance. You found this man that you attracted this man at this time when you started to open that place or
yeah,
were vulnerable to that and
yeah.
open. And, he saw the light,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, so true. It is that balance of the masculine and feminine within a relationship or even within yourself. Like I can even find in certain situations when I feel I'm becoming too masculine, when I'm trying to do something in my business and it's like, that's a good thing as well. We still have the masculine and every man and woman has masculine and feminine energy and hormones, but it's just keeping it in that balance and making sure, yeah, you don't want to go to too extreme where you feel like, oh, I'm so helpless. I need everyone to help me. You can have moments like that. That's good. But you don't want to stay there. But you also don't want to be the other extreme of like, I don't need anybody helping me. I can do it all on my own. Like neither of those extremes are healthy. We all need some, again, it's the kind of wheel of life. We have to give and we have to receive. And yeah, you
Hard
just
for you to receive, I bet, before.
what's that?
It was hard for you to receive, I bet.
Very hard. And the reason being is that I got my worth from giving.
Mm-hmm.
So because I had such low self-esteem and I didn't really think a lot of myself, the only way I could feel of any value was giving.
Right.
And so I had to block myself from receiving because I didn't feel worthy. And I thought, well, I don't deserve this. So when you do the work and you go through that and you think, I love receiving now, it's so fun.
Yes. But, so I see in you what's in me. That's what's so cool when you have a conversation like this. Like I
Yeah.
see in you what I see in me and what I can pick out in you is in me.
Mm,
So, when I was in my 30s and on a path of, growing and trying to figure out how to become more feminine and attract the right uh, person in my life to have a family with, I look back and think, gosh, how, if I met someone like you, like to get to that, like, Ashley, you just got to get in your feminine, like get to that. What would you say to somebody? Like if I came to you and said, oh, Sally, please help me. I'm in my 30s. I'm masculine. I'm running a business. I'm attracting these feminine men that are needy. How do I shift tell me what you would tell me to do, like daily stuff.
so one of the big things, I read a book, it was a business book called The Go-Giver. And it basically talks about how within the laws of physics, what goes up must come down. And so whenever you give something, you then have to receive because that's the kind of laws of the universe. And that by blocking receiving, you're then blocking the next cycle of giving. And so what I realized, because I hate the thought of ever being mean to anyone or selfish or things like that. And so when I reframed the fact by I was being really selfish by not ever receiving stuff. I love giving stuff to people, right? I love blessing them. I love gifting stuff. But I realized part of that was that feeling that I loved. And how dare I block other people from having that
Yes.
feeling of blessing me, of saying, hey, you take a night off. Hey, let me help you do that. Whereas before it was like, no, no, no. Like my identity is that I help you and no one helps me. And when I realized that actually that's quite a cruel identity for other people, if you're saying, no, only I get to give, only I get that feeling of blessing you, and you don't get that for me, it changed my whole thought. Whereas before I was kind of 10 steps ahead and I thought, oh, well, I don't want them buying coffee because they earn less than me. So, and now
Right.
I just see that if that's the gift they want to give me, how wonderful. And I receive that so they get the gift of blessing and I can bless someone else and they can receive from someone else and just keep this cycle going.
Right. So how do I do that? How do I, just by being open to,
Yeah, so you have to, I think when you're out of practice, you have to practice, and sometimes you even have to ask for it. So, and that can feel like almost quite embarrassing or quite humiliating because like I remember thinking like like, I love giving people compliments, right? It comes so naturally to me. I just
I
like,
do
you know,
too.
I see you and I'm like, oh, you just look gorgeous. And I just want to talk about that the whole time. And but then I realized, oh, actually, I would like some compliments, but I'm not letting people do that because of my energy. So I started asking, so not just random strangers, but I would say to my husband, can I have a compliment today? And first of all, he'd be like, what? And I'd feel really embarrassed, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, it's taken you so long to think of one. He's like, no, it's just like come out of left field. And so I'd hold my nerve and I'd wait, and he'd think of a compliment. And sometimes it would be horrendous, like, we're a great team. And I'd be like, that's not the compliment I wanted. But, you know, I persevered, and it was like building up those muscles to say, hey, this is something I do need. I do want to receive. And sometimes I'm going to need to ask for it. And that's the same in work or life. You know, like sometimes if you need to receive rest, sometimes you're going to have to ask for it. What we do as women, we just wait for people to notice. We wait for them to notice we're exhausted or we're unhappy or we're doing that laundry loudly, right? We wait for someone to say, oh, can't believe you're doing the third load of laundry today. Aren't you amazing? Whereas actually we need to not wait for that, because that causes resentment. That will cause only stress in our body. Like we said before, our husbands are happy watching that TV show, right? So we're only imbalancing our body.
Right.
And we have to ask for it. And it might be like, can you just pause that TV show and help me fold the laundry for 5 minutes? And again, it will feel uncomfortable. It will feel unnatural. The other person might even think it's weird. But once you get into that habit, you start to feel the health benefits of receiving.
Yeah.
And look for where that is everywhere. Look, like, receive the sunshine, or receive the full moon, or receive that beautiful cup of coffee or tea, and sit there for a moment and just understand that that's a gift as well.
Yes, I love that. Okay. Coming toward the end, I want to talk about the food. So last night before I went to bed, you were talking about coffee, matcha, alcohol, what you stopped drinking because like all the things that you recommend, the rainbow. I love the vitamins, the fats, your inflammation. I mean, I feel like, when I was reading that going, gosh, you know, do this, or I have coffee every morning. But do you kind of like talk about that? Because I like your tips, because I did go to bed last night and I did wake up this morning because you were on my mind, because I got to see you today, of like, what is that? I mean, after reading your book, I did wake up and have a shift. So when I was having my coffee, I said, what are the choices that I'm making that is either causing my hormones to be, have my loop in my head be negative,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
menopause, whatever I'm going through, my inflammation, like
Yes.
what is all that? What am I compounding when I don't even know I'm doing it?
Yes. So a big part of my health puzzle was, again, like trying to find the root cause of all these different diseases I'd had. And what kept coming up time and time again was inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of cellular inflammation, is the root cause of most chronic diseases, degenerative diseases that we don't want, the heart disease, the cancer, um, the fibromyalgia, things like that. And again, what we're told is that these, fingers crossed you don't get one of these diseases if you do medication, right? And what I realized is that my body had been inflamed for decades. So our body is meant to have stress hormones, it's meant to have inflammation, but it's meant to be quick. It's meant to be like, oh my goodness, like my child was going to run out in front of that car. We grabbed them. Our stress hormones go up, we move fast, and then it's meant to go down. Or I just cut myself, inflammation rushes to the site, helps heal that. And then your body calms down. We live in a state where we're chronically stressed, right? Everything stresses us out. Our phone pinging, social media, worries about this, worries about that. So our body never gets that respite from those inflammatory hormones in our body. And so what I realized, instead of saying, look, I can't move to the middle of nowhere, right, and have no stress, I can't stop the chemicals that are in the atmosphere, the water, and if I do, I'll just send myself insane thinking everything's going to kill me. However, what I can do is I can start to live okay, there's inflammation in my life, there's inflammation in the atmosphere, the environment, there's inflammation in certain foods, but I can start living an anti-inflammatory life as much as possible. So, okay, coffee, that can raise women's cortisol first thing. Most women will have their coffee first thing, right? And so they also panic when I talk about that. Please don't take it away from me, they say.
Right.
And I say, okay, that's fine. I don't want you to have any less pleasure in your life. But what I do want you to do is, one, have a glass of water first, and two, just eat something first. And that will mean that when you have that coffee, you're not going to have that stress spike in your body. So you enjoy that coffee, and the difference between grabbing it first thing, running out the door, or you just say, look, I'm going to forego my coffee now because I'm rushing around and I'm stressed, and I'm going to have it in 2 hours when I get to sit down and have it for 5 minutes, and I'm going to think a wonderful thought. And so that will be health giving to my body, as opposed to just pure stress, rush, coffee. Same with alcohol. Alcohol is very inflammatory to women. I used to drink loads in my 20s. Like I said, I was a party girl through and through. But what I didn't realize that alcohol was actually a poison to our bodies. Our bodies interpret it like a poison. And I always say to people, I probably wouldn't have lived any differently in my 20s had I have known that. But
Right.
now I'm in my 40s, and lots of the women who are struggling with hormonal issues, actually that alcohol, when you've got so much stress already in your life, that alcohol will give you physical or mental health symptoms if it's a constant component in your life. Can it be something you have as a treat once a week? Or of course you can, but it's not something you can have daily with coffee, with sugar, with loads of products with chemicals in, with constant stress. So what we want to do, instead of, those are some of the kind of stuff that affect our bodies. But what I say to women is, let's focus. So all those things are kind of pro-inflammatory. Let's focus on all the things that nature has given us that's anti-inflammatory. So if you have your coffee or your big slice of cake or your glass of wine, pair it or think about within your day having something that's anti-inflammatory. So have some of those vegetables, have some fruit, have a meal that's got protein and good fats. And like I said, just anything colorful, eat that rainbow. All of those things, those herbs, those spices are nature's gift of anti-inflammatory medicine that can help you bring down the inflammation from all those other things that you either might want to keep in your life or that you don't have much control over, like stress levels or, like I said, pollutants in the atmosphere. So just knowing, like I said, that, like I said, I love a slice of cake. I'll always try and have a handful of berries with it because I think it tastes quite nice together, but there's inflammation that will in the ingredients in the cake, and I can immediately bring that down with the anti-inflammatory berries. Quite fun.
Huh. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, it really did. You did make an impact with
Thank
me
you. Oh,
a
wow,
lot.
thank you.
You entered my mind a lot today. I mean, obviously, because I get to see you now, but after that book, and I think your book too is easy. It's like you're my friend and you're just telling me what you learned and this is
Yeah.
what I recommend and
Yes.
that kind of thing. And I feel that, just even talking to the teenage girls that I had in the car on the way to school today, I could explain it to them,
Yes.
so it would be something that I would want them to know early in life,
Yes.
so they had control. We always talk about, all the laws of the universe. I mean, they're like,
They've got
they run
PhDs in it.
but yeah, anyway, you did make an impact and I thank you for that. And I know that people are put in my life for a certain reason. I know Dominic thought we'd have so much in common but I know there was a higher purpose. And I know once I sit here with you, I knew what it was going to be. But last night it was like, oh, I needed to read her book.
Yeah,
That
nice.
was it. That was my aha moment that
Oh.
was where Dominic came in and, his like little higher self said, okay, Ashley, tap, tap. You
Yeah.
got to read Sally's book. I mean, I could have just introduced you and, kind of read about your book, but I ordered it like a couple
Oh,
weeks when I had, we had talked.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, because we're at the end and I always try to think like, what would one thing that this Sally at you right now give advice to the Sally at 20 years old? What would you give What would you tell her if you were looking at her right now?
Gosh, I'd probably want to sit down with her for a good 3 hours or so and go through her boyfriend choices and her diet choices, but we won't do that. Um, one thing, I would probably just look deep into her eyes and tell her, I promise you're beautiful. And by that, I mean like that resonate into her soul for her to know she's a good person. You know, like so much of my 20s was about, I was auditioning for stuff. I didn't ever feel physically beautiful enough, but it was that striving to be a good person as well. That was a much of a drive for me. And so that reassurance that you are a good person. You know, I'd grown up with conflicting stories from religion or different people and situations that made me feel like I wasn't a good person, or that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't a beautiful soul. And so I know that about me now. And so to tell my 20-year-old self that, who every day didn't think she was good enough, that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah. What would be, I was buying a friend a necklace that had all the, like the sayings, like I am good enough. I am worthy, all the limit. What would be what would you pick?
Um,
If I was going to say, okay, Sally, I'm going to buy you a necklace. It's going to have this one mantra. It's called Mantra Band is the company. I don't, but
oh,
I buy those necklaces for, I just, whoever I am drawn to. And
yeah,
I'll think of what these mantras
yes.
or what that person is representing. What would be yours?
So mine would be, I am enough.
Okay.
Because again, that the thing that stops us resting, or the thing, be it like you as a mom or as a business owner or someone coaching or helping people, there's always that voice saying you haven't done enough, you haven't done enough, or okay, well, you might be doing good in that area, you might be doing great in your diet but you're not exercising enough, or you might be doing great in your business but your relationship's not good enough. And it's just that, telling a woman, I promise you are enough, you're doing enough and you are enough. And even that brings a moment of rest, of like, imagine if every woman knew that and was told that every day. Oh, that would reduce the stress levels.
It would. And it would
Mm.
make everyone more, their energy, their health, their life would be
Yeah,
a whole different thing.
yeah.
You just, I don't know, it's beautiful to meet someone like you that is out there that can shine their light on the people that are drawn to you, and that they see, I mean, you are like this little angel. It is so, like when you were saying, oh, like I just could sit here and look at you, but you're this angel, and you are brought to this, I talk about 2022, the last 2 years of our life has shifted,
Mm,
and we're shifting. And I know people in this time, we were all, the last person I interviewed, he called it, we all earned it. We earned this time right now.
wow.
And I
Yeah,
love that, instead of
I
saying,
love
aren't we
that.
like, we won the lottery, we, all the things, but no, we earned being here.
Yes.
And
Oh, I
that's what
love
you're
that.
doing.
That gave me goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're shining your light because you earned it. You've done all these past lives and whatever you've done, and the past, like now you're here and you've earned that. And that's why we're here to take this, whatever this next 50, 100, 700 years or whatever, we're pushing up, we're pushing the energy up, and you're doing
Yeah.
that.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for also doing that and enabling other people to do that by the way you're holding space for them and the questions you ask. And yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. So everyone can find you on Instagram. I loved watching I looked at all your Instagram posts. That was fun. And tell us where we can find you.
Yes, so on Instagram, I'm at Women with Sparkle. You can go to my website, womenwithsparkle.com. And yeah, you can buy my book on Amazon, Get Your Sparkle Back by Sally Beaton. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to sign up for my newsletter. And kind of once or twice a month, you'll get a newsletter that will just give you information about what I'm doing. I run something called Sparkle School. So I run a monthly masterclass for women, but also I just try and put in little nuggets in those newsletters to help women who are busy and stressed and not feeling like they've got their sparkle, just feel a bit better about their day and have some kind of tangible, practical things they can do to feel better.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sally. I see why Dominic connected us.
Yes, I
Very
agree. Thank
grateful.
you.
You're so welcome.